SKOR North.com.
Yeah, I thought it would have been a shame to lose this game. I thought we deserved the win. We struggled to make some little plays down the stretch, like rebounding, of course, and we didn't make some hoops that we got good looks at. So it would have been a tough one to swallow if we lost this one. But thankfully, we gutted it out. We found a way to come back, and very much like it was a carbon copy of the other day. But proud of our effort.
Love me some Chris Finch.
I love the prolonged ear scratch.
We've all been there.
Which, by the way, feels good.
It's better the ear than the nose.
It's one of my favorite things.
I've had an itchy nose for all week, and yes.
You got to do the old.
And the YouTube commenters have noticed, and they think I've been doing a certain amount of
they
think
extracurricular activities.
Draft week, you've dipped into the nose candy, Declan?
Yeah, they think I'm doing that.
The clip from yesterday's show that went viral is, I think it was Royce barging into the producer studio during our show. And Declan just getting super scared while on camera.
He opens this door so aggressively. And it wasn't that. And when you had these noise-canceling headphones on, like all of a sudden, hey! And it scared the living bejesus out of me.
Your startled face, though, is really good.
It is.
Like, you get, really caught off.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Amazing. So this is Mackie and Judd here. It's a Reckless Speculation Thursday. And it's draft day, and so we're gonna blend those two at an intersection here in just a little bit. Our friend Darren Doogie Wolfson from 5 Eyewitness News and the Scoop podcast, which you can find on Apple, Spotify, and SKORNorth.com. Doogie, is the Western Conference lucky that the Timberwolves are going to run out of runway?
It is amazing that they're playing their best basketball after officially being eliminated from playoff contention. But you know what, though? Going back to that second Utah game, even the Houston game, some of these comebacks they've made under Chris Finch. So now under Finch's leadership, now it's not good that they're getting down by 15 or more points, but it is now 6 times in the last, since the All-Star break. 6 times since the All-Star break, just a handful of weeks ago, that the Wolves have gotten down, typically early in the game, but have gotten down by 15 or more points and came back and won. So that, to me, speaks volumes about what we've talked about for weeks. That Chris Finch is a really, really good coach. So you give him this summer, guys will be at Mayo Clinic Square getting work in. You give him a full training camp, a full preseason. Now, make no mistake, the roster needs all sorts of work. But that they have a really good coach in place, that there are a lot of reasons to be very hopeful heading into next season.
Speaking of that, Dukes, then, who do you think, among the non-stars, who do you think fits the best, and who do you think is probably gone as they try and retool this a little bit, at least, to give themselves the best chance to be competitive for a playoff spot?
I think a lot of guys will be on the table. I mean, Ricky Rubio, with that money as an expiring contract this summer, will hold all sorts of trade value. Like, I don't think they're married to Ricky Rubio being on this roster next year. I do think they want to see D'Lo, Cat, McDaniels, Beasley, Ant, that 5 together for some sort of sustained stretch, but otherwise go up and down the list. I mean, Jarrett Culver, he can be attained if you're some other team that feels like, hey, he just needs a change of scenery. Jake Layman, any number of guys, the Wolves will be open-minded to moving this summer. But do I think they're moving any of the 5 I just mentioned? No, I would be surprised.
The biggest question when Chris Finch took over, and we asked Gerson this when he came on the show it was probably 3 weeks ago now, is when you look at the lineup plus-minus combos, right? You can look at Basketball Reference and NBA.com. They do a great job of showing you, this 2-man combo or this 3-man combo and how they compare relative to the rest of the league. One of the Wolves' worst 2-man combos was Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell when they played at the same time. They were awful. It was like a minus 15 per 100 possessions or something. And so we asked him, all right, it's great that D'Lo's going to come back, but can those two guys play together? What? And he didn't name Ryan Saunders by name, and we love Ryan, and I don't mean to throw him under the bus, but Gerson basically said we feel like what Chris Finch is going to bring from a coaching perspective and a system perspective is going to unlock some things with that pairing. And Dukes, that's obviously the case. D'Lo seems to be really comfortable off the ball too in Chris Finch's system. So what are you hearing? What do you see when it comes to the ability of D'Lo and Ant to coexist and win games together.
Well, you just said it. I mean, D'Lo being able to operate off the ball like he did in Brooklyn at a really high level when Dinwiddie was on the ball. So there is a pretty large sample size of D'Lo having success off the ball, that he can have success here off the ball, where if it's Ant or somebody else initiating the offense, that you can have high-level offensive success that way. I still wonder about the defensive end. But yeah, I think they're going to see this thing through in that regard. Also, make no mistake about this. D'Lo and Ryan, like, it didn't work. There was a lot more going on there than a lot of us have ever talked about. That D'Lo is in a much better frame of mind playing for Chris, but heck, playing for any coach that isn't Ryan Saunders.
Did they just? I mean, I don't want to get you in trouble here, but like, did they just not see eye to eye on system? I mean, what did they not like each other? Like, can you share anything else without getting in trouble, I guess?
Well, I mean, I think it goes all the way back to when D'Angelo Russell came into town, pre-draft process. What year would that have been when the Wolves ended up with Cat number 1? Would that have been 2015?
Yeah, I think it was 15.
So D'Lo arrives, flies in, and let's just say the second he got into the car, leaving the airport, things just went south with that particular trip. You know, and I think
Ryan was in the
D'Lo,
car?
his people. No, Ryan was not in the car.
Okay.
But the story started to trickle out after that. They went to 7 for a dinner. It just there were some weird vibes that particular trip. And so I think it goes all the way back to 2015. You know, just some things, Russell, his people, the Saunders family, the late Flip, now Ryan, where I'm not sure that relationship ever got off to any sort of good start. And all these years later, I think it just carried over.
Where do things stand right now as far as the sale goes? Because I think that was a 30-day window of opportunity, right, for the sale to be completed or signed off on completely. Are we close to that being announced in a press conference where A-Rod comes to town and everybody is thrilled because he really likes us?
Well, I mean, A-Rod's been here, right? I mean, A-Rod and Mark Laurie in here.
But no, but
so, yeah,
I'm
they
saying,
would come back to town for some sort of news conference. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to think that anything has fallen through. I mean, Glenn told me a few weeks ago that everything pretty much was negotiated. It still blows me away that a transaction of this magnitude, over $1 billion, got done in less than a week. I mean, that just floors me. But Glenn said, I mean, pretty much every detail
in the kitchen, right,
had been agreed to. I don't know if it was the
in
kitchen,
the kitchen,
but yeah, somewhere there in Naples. Yeah,
apple
Glenn's
pie,
residence. Yeah,
coffee,
probably lasagna. Becky's lasagna for dinner.
Everyone, the lasagna dinner.
I want to find out just how inside you are. Have you ever had Becky's lasagna?
I have not had Becky's lasagna. No, I have not. I'd love to. Becky's a sweetheart. You know, so
that sounds
if
like a
the
band.
invitation is ever extended, trust me, I'll take her up on that offer. But no, I have not. I have not had
Doogie
Becky's
has
lasagna.
never passed up lasagna.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Becky's lasagna.
Sources tell me.
And I will say, like, when we talk about Ryan,
yeah,
like, I love Ryan. Heart of gold. Like, I don't know if I shared this story
came
on
over to
air,
help
but I
your
shared
kid.
it on social media.
It's awesome, dude.
He came by the neighborhood a couple weeks ago,
help me?
put my older son, his 3-on-3 teammates, through a basketball workout for 1 hour, never once looked down at his phone. And we didn't catch up much. Like, it was about the kids. It wasn't about, you know, Ryan and I bonding. You know, so there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue there. He did tell me he's off to D.C. after he gets his second COVID vaccine, which might be now. You know, they have a place in D.C. Where him and his wife and the 2 kids were going to get away for a little bit. But we really didn't catch up much. But, like, that's the kind of person Ryan is.
That's awesome.
And I even said, not that he lives super far from where we live, but I'm like, hey, if you know a park by your house, like, we'll come your way. I'll put the boys in my car. We'll drive to you. He's like, no, I'll come your way. And I'm just telling you, for him to not look down at his phone for an entire hour, to show them some plays, you know, to run them through some drills, just give them a nice pep talk, like, heart of gold. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
Like, that's something these boys will think about for the rest of their lives practically, right? Like, an NBA coach,
yes,
the former head coach of the Timberwolves, comes to their local park and runs them through drills. So, like,
Did you rip him at all during the hour for any out of bounds plays?
I heard the kids.
or the lack of defense being taught.
I heard the kids questioned him. I heard the kids were like, you know what? We don't mean to talk back, but Mr. Saunders, is this really what you want us to do?
Like, you really want Drugi on the ball? Like,
Yeah.
shouldn't Drugi be, not the one initiating the offense? Yeah, no, it was fantastic. So, I mean, admittedly, right? I mean, we all have biases, right? I mean, we try to be as objective as possible, but whether it's inherent or obvious, whatever it might be. I mean, I make no bones about it. I mean, Ryan's one of my guys, and I still think the offense he ran here created enough good looks. Now, good is subjective, but I just don't think the Wolves have enough shooters. And he only got to coach D'Lo and Cat for, 5 games total for this year. When you think about Beasley, Ant, Cat, and Russell, those 4 have only played together a total of 13 minutes. So it's not like Ryan was set up for a whole lot of success, but I'm just telling you, Chris Finch is a basketball savant. It was everything I heard going back when they hired him. It was more about, can he cultivate relationships, but just as a basketball coach. Like, you think about just some of the plays he's designed, some of the adjustments he's made in game. Like, Chris Finch is brilliant. Like, I can't fault the Wolves, Gerson specifically, for hiring his guy. Like, if your job's on the line, you may as well go down swinging. Not that Gerson's job is on the line right this second, but like, you're going to do things the way you want to do them. And so I completely get it. Chris Finch is an A-plus coach.
So, Duke, to try and put the pieces of the puzzle together that you are providing right now, am I to take it that Saunders might have been fired in part because D'Lo had told them, I'm not really going to come back, and obviously had a desire to get him back on the floor with Cat, and that Chris Finch, they could have expedited the process to Chris Finch because in Gerson's mind, he knew that he would click more with the guard. And so just as far as, because the timing did seem just a little bit odd, because it wasn't like you were going to fire Saunders and then things were going to turn around and be perfect. That team was pretty much fried. So if you put the pieces together, does it make some sense that they made the move to Finch and fired Ryan when they did as an olive branch to D'Lo to get him back on the floor?
Yes, certainly part of the equation. The sole reason, no. I mean, heck, let's not forget, last offseason, Gerson went to Ryan and said, hey, I want you to add Chris Finch to your staff. This was before Chris Finch landed with his good buddy Nick Nurse with the Raptors. He wanted Ryan to hire Chris, and there wasn't an opening. And so Ryan said, no, I'm not firing anybody on my staff. That was maybe the first, brouhaha, Gerson and Ryan. And I can't fault Ryan. It's not like Ryan wanted to fire, Brian Gates or anybody else on his staff. Sure. There wasn't an opening. But Gerson wanted Chris Finch on the Wolves staff before the season started. So, yeah, these wheels have been in motion for a while. I mean, let's not forget. It's not like they lose that game in New York to Tibbs and the Knicks. They lose that game, then all of a sudden it hit Gerson. Hey, we need to make a move.
Right.
The wheels have been in motion for a while.
Of course.
Yeah.
Doogie, there will be a lot of people that are listening and or watching this after the first round of the draft, but the juiciest thing that has come out so far here in the, 7 hours or whatever before, 8 hours before the draft starts. So I think our old friend Paul Allen floated this on his radio show, but then Bill Michaels, the big unit, the voice of Wisconsin sports talk, Bill Michaels tweeted, the 49ers have offered the Packers the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft, plus other picks and a number of players from their roster, including Jimmy Garoppolo, for Aaron Rodgers. The Packers turned them down. Your thoughts?
I don't think that happened.
Rob Demovsky, by the way,
unbelievable sources. Yeah,
Demovsky is shooting it down.
Is shooting it down. I trust Rob, so I side more with Rob on this one. And heck, let's just say the 49ers did make that offer. I don't think the Packers are trading Aaron Rodgers right now. I'll tell you this much. I was in the car this morning because to be at the Vikings facility tomorrow for some of the the fallout from tonight, we have to undergo COVID testing. So I was over at the Vikings this morning. So, I was in the car for about 35 minutes this morning. So I heard PA say it, and he was pretty definitive about it, but like I would be surprised. But when I heard it, I started to think, okay, I know PA knows a lot of people, right? We text and talk more than people know, right? So I started to think, heck, if the 49ers did that, have they approached the Vikings in recent days about Kirk Cousins? Are they trying to revisit that possibility? So I checked this morning. I'm told no. Nothing going on there. 49ers inquiring about Kirk Cousins of the Vikings.
I am not buying for 1 second once San Fran got that third pick, Dukes, that they were willing to offer that for Kirk. Like, I do believe that they called months ago and said, let's talk trade.
I agree, months ago. Yes.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But just not recently.
Right. But once you get that third pick, I don't care how much you love Kirk. You're not going to give the Vikings the third pick for Kirk.
No.
Like, that's just not.
But I mean, you could, in theory, offer.
I don't see that trade happening.
Garoppolo, next year's first, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
The package you would theoretically offer up doesn't include the number 3 overall
I got
pick.
you.
But
Okay.
again, I'm telling you, I'm not dealing with, theoretically right now. I'm dealing with reality.
Right.
I'm told by somebody that absolutely would know that there hasn't been any recent dialogue, the 49ers and the Vikings.
Mm.
Doogie, if it were me tonight, I told Judd and Declan this on Purple Daily today. If it were me tonight, I would have my radar up for Justin Fields or Trey Lance falling, and if they fall, I'm pouncing. And I know that Kirk Cousins is good, and the Vikings are tied to him financially now and even next year. But I think if you have a potential franchise quarterback fall to you, it's your obligation to be interested in that. So that's where my radar is at first and foremost. If that doesn't happen, offensive tackle is where I'm turning next. I believe what McShay and Daniel Jeremiah have mocked, that where they probably go is Jalen Phillips or edge rusher, either by trading back or by all of the offensive players being off the board by the time the 14th pick rolls around. What are your thoughts on scenarios that are most likely tonight?
All right, well, let's talk through all 3 of those scenarios. On the quarterbacks, they've done a lot of homework on the 2 guys you mentioned, Phil. I can tell you that Clint Kubiak, the new Vikings play caller, Vikings offensive coordinator, has had a number of conversations with those in Fargo with the Bison program, that the Vikings don't believe that Lance is falling to them. They've had that belief now for many days. Now, maybe Fields does. I don't have as much intel on Fields as I do on Lance, but that the Vikings don't foresee a scenario where Trey Lance is staring them in the face at pick 14. If he is, yeah, I think they would consider it. I do. I think they would think long and hard. I mean, I've said for a while that I think they do take a quarterback at some point over the next few days. So, hey, if you feel like Trey Lance has a chance to be really, really special, yeah, I'm with you, Phil. Plus, as somebody who roots for storylines, give me the quarterback tonight. That is the best storyline of them all. Drafting an offensive lineman, that's not sexy. That's boring, right? But yeah, I think it's more likely they go offensive line or defensive line. I wish I could tell you I knew for sure, but like I can see both. Like, go back, 5 or 6 weeks ago, they go after Carl Lawson. They lose out on him. They go after Trey Hendrickson. They lose out on him. Yeah, they signed Stephen Weatherly, but he's like a number 3 or even a number 4. Maybe DJ Wanham is the number 3. Weatherly is the number 4. So they chase these free agent pass rushers. They don't get either, right? So, like, they still want a pass rusher, right? So, yeah, like whether that's Jalen Phillips or Kwity Paye, it makes sense to me, right? And we know that Zimmer would love to have a first-round defensive guy, right? That he figures we can patchwork the offensive line internally, whether that's Rashad Hill playing right tackle, move Brian O'Neill to left tackle. Heck, we know Ezra Cleveland can play left tackle. We traded for Mason Cole. We like Udo. Like, we have some guys internally. Let's wait on taking an offensive lineman.
Oh, my.
In progress?
Oh, man. I just want to throw this out there. The New Orleans Saints have tweeted an eyeball emoji. The New Orleans Saints have tweeted an eyeball emoji. Let the draft speculation begin, boys.
That's all they did? Just the eyeballs?
Well, I mean, all the reports out there say they want to move up for a cornerback.
Yes.
Is that the Alabama kid, or is that J.C. Horn, the South Carolina kid, Joe Horn? You think about Joe's history with the New Orleans Saints, his son now JC.
Hiding a brick phone in the goalpost.
Well, I mean,
padding. Remember
is
that?
JC Horn sitting there at 14? If so, if you're the Vikings, do you let New Orleans come up to 14, or is that too far to go back?
That's a long
Can you still
ways
get
back.
Phillips
No.
or Pay there?
Maybe Pay.
Okay,
Or maybe
hold on.
you go,
I
maybe
have
you
to
go
ask.
Dylan Radins, the kid from Becker High School, an offensive lineman in the mid-20s. Where is New Orleans exactly? What pick is it?
28, right?
28. Yeah, I have to ask. Percentage chance the Vikings draft a cornerback in the first round. Is it 0 or above?
Well, I can't say 0, right? When you look at the 2022 Vikings, with no guarantees that Mike Zimmer is here, but when you look at the 2022 Vikings, Mackenzie Alexander pending free agent, Patrick Peterson pending free agent, Jeff Gladney, his future way up in the air. Even if he's back, he's looking at some sort of long-term suspension. So cornerback surely is a need 2022.
Mike Hughes not
Could
that.
be a need, yeah, Mike Hughes. So the deadline is Monday for the fifth-year option, Mike Hughes.
Ain't picking that
The
up.
Vikings are not picking up the fifth-year option on Mike Hughes. I think we all know that. So when you look at the situation the Vikings are looking at 1 year from now, cornerback is a glaring need, right? But I guess when you're looking at the 2021 Vikings, maybe not so much. Plus, there's still some guys in the free agent market that they could potentially sign that could help them as a number 4, number 5 type. So I can't sit here, Phil, and tell you 0%, but I think it's relatively low. Let me go back to the 3 scenarios because we didn't talk offensive line. I just don't know if you take an interior offensive lineman that high for the second time in 3 years. And I get it that Bradbury wasn't picked quite that high, but that to me is not great value
for a guard
in the first round.
Yeah,
for a guard. So Vera Tucker
can play, but
he could potentially play right tackle
as well.
I don't know about left tackle with the short arms, and the Vikings love those 34-inch arms.
The short arms are a problem.
But could he potentially play right
Hey,
tackle?
where's my Burger King burger?
Yeah, and then you move O'Neal to left tackle. So maybe the Vikings view it like that. Or Darisaw does have the long arms. He's got those arms. So do you take the Virginia Tech tackle and feel like you've got your left tackle for the next 8 to 10 years?
Doogie? I would love to know this, and we don't. And I thought I did, but I'm now convinced I was wrong. When Zimmer got the job in 2014, I would love to see Mike's contract to know that if he was gifted final say on the 53, because when Spielman was named GM, it was made very clear that Frazier was now out of. He would have a say, but he was out of having a 50-50 say. And to go back to Brad Childress, he had the say, de facto GM, right? But if they take a defensive end in the first round tonight, I think it's pretty safe to say that at some point in time, control of the 53-man roster shifted from Rick to Mike because the seismic shift in the fact that you will have basically looked at every defensive position of need. And I'm not saying it was good. It was bad, okay? But we'll have addressed every one of those while having made one small trade for an offensive guard. It'll be crystal clear that Mike has completely, right or wrong, hijacked control of the roster itself.
Well, maybe so, but just looking at the depth of this draft, there's a lot of offensive linemen, specifically tackles. When you look at pass rushers for this draft, there isn't a whole lot of depth. So just logically speaking, you're taking a pass rusher at some point. You're taking an offensive lineman, a tackle at some point in all likelihood.
But he scares me. He's got concussion problems.
Oh, I agree.
That should scare you off.
And other injury problems, right? Like he medically retired while at UCLA. Like that to me is the ultimate red flag. So, yeah, I'm with you
that worries me enough
Jalen
to back
Phillips.
me off.
Yeah.
I'd take him off my board.
But I'm just saying, I can't sit here and dismiss the possibility of them going with a pass rusher tonight than waiting on the offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. But if I had to bet, I don't feel great about this, but I think tonight the Vikings end up with an offensive lineman.
I'll tell you, if they do draft Jalen Phillips, I would want some insurance. And that's where Federated comes in, helping business owners in the state of Minnesota for over 100 years. They're one of us. They're based in Owatonna, and they provide risk management resources, frontline protection, and peace of mind for business owners with tools like MyShield. Find out what Federated can do for your business at federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours.
All right, let me add on Darisaw, because some text messages are coming in. Somebody close to Darisaw. Running the idea of the Vikings ending up with Darisaw. This person tells me that as of a few days ago, he would have dismissed that possibility. But in recent days, there's more steam that this individual, again, close to Darrisaw, does see a scenario where Darrisaw ends up in purple tonight.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
I had no problem with that.
The long arms, definitely key. Keep those
That's
defenders
fine.
away.
Especially if you feel like he can be your left tackle.
Yes, exactly.
For 2 contracts.
Exactly.
7-8 years.
Yes.
Take the left tackle, right? That to me makes sense.
Finally solved.
You take a left tackle in the first round. Or you take a pass rusher in the first round.
Yes.
Taking a guard in the first round.
Yeah, I'm not going to take a guard. Quentin
But like,
Nelson
I think
is the rarity.
I think they love Rashawn Slater. Is Rashawn Slater, now could he play right tackle and you move Brian O'Neill to left tackle?
How are the arms?
Shorter than the 34 inches that they like. Right? So, like, they love Slater. So, is there a scenario where Slater gets past 8?
No.
Where the Vikings
I think
can
he
jump
goes.
up
I
for
think he
Rashawn
goes.
Slater?
I think he goes. Yeah.
Well, if he goes, then cross Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater
Yes, I think you can do
off
that.
the board.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, and I would say maybe it's 10 or 15% that the Vikings move up. I think it's more likely they move back
And get
if
a
they make a
second-round
trade
pick.
tonight.
I'm with you.
Right? Let somebody move up for Devontae Smith, or maybe it's a cornerback if J.C. Horn is there and New Orleans wants to offer a ton. But I think like these are all scenarios that they've kicked around for many, many days in Egan.
Hey, boys, I'm thinking about I love what the Saints did here. Just the eyeball emojis. Just the eyeball emojis. It's just genius. I might just tweet hearing things 2 eyeball emojis.
Go right ahead.
Maybe 3 eyeballs.
Do it right now.
See what happens.
That's
Doogie,
awesome.
give us some rapid fire scoops here. We know you have to go and do your day job. So what else you got for us?
So a little bit more on the Timberwolves. So there's a really good guard. His name is Perrier Henry. Plays for Baskonia over in Europe. So the Wolves have had dialogue with Baskonia about buying him out. The cost would be around $750,000. They then would need to sign him to a contract that would include, like, he's not signing here for a 10-day deal just to come here for 10 days, right? Like, if he's coming over to America, as great as the NBA is, he needs some security for next season. So there's some dialogue happening there. I'm not saying it's 100% chance. We should have some clarity in the next few days whether this player, Henry, ends up in a Wolves uniform. Some of these Twins minor leaguers are starting to get their assignments with the minor league season starting to go here. Aaron Sabato, the buzz is he will stay in Florida. So now Florida is low A, not high A, right? Cedar Rapids is high A.
High A, yes.
Now, I don't think Aaron Sabato, the first-round pick last year, played in college in North Carolina. I don't think he's going to be in Fort Myers very long.
Sure.
Like, I think he can climb the ladder pretty darn fast, but it looks like he'll start the season low A. Matt Canarino showed some promise during some of those spring training games. Good pitcher. Looks like high A for Cantarino. I'm still waiting on some of these other guys. Sano, Kepler, Garlick hitting right now at CHS Field. All are on the cusp of returning, whether it's tomorrow, Saturday, but pretty quick here. All 3 guys will be ready to go. Now, heck, with Kyle Garlick, what do you do there? Like, are you putting him back on the 26-man roster? So there's some question marks there. Certainly Kepler and Sano will be added back to the 26-man roster.
Sure.
Ben Johnson is close to hiring his 3rd assistant coach, Marcus Jenkins from the University of Richmond. I will credit Gopher Illustrated with the initial steam on that, but going back and forth with somebody that would know this morning, that is in the works. Associate head coach at the University of Richmond. Last name Jenkins to complete the Gopher staff. Ben Johnson still very much on the lookout for size. If you see any new player enter the transfer portal that has any pulse, that's done anything, that is 6'8" or bigger, I can promise you Ben Johnson, Dave Thorson have made that phone call.
No short
so they
arms,
are
Doogie.
being a very, very aggressive
long arms.
in chasing down
Not short arms.
a big man.
Don't
All right,
have
that's
short
Darren.
arms. Name of my book. Don't have short arms. The Judd
Dukes,
Zolgad story.
We love you, and we're pumped for draft night tonight. And you can always follow Doogie on Twitter at DWolfsonKSTP and find his work on KSTP.com, KSTP TV, and The Scoop podcast. Inside information about your favorite local sports teams. We'll talk
By the
next
way,
week, Doogie.
I'll leave you with this. So the last Scoop podcast has Desmond Howard and Randy Mueller with some Vikings chatter. So this morning, I mentioned I have to go to the Vikings facility to get a COVID test. Any media member that will be at TCO Performance Center over the next few days has to undergo a COVID test. No big deal. Fine, go out there. Guess who was behind me in line? Owner Mark Wilf. So there was only one person. Another person came after grabbing some breakfast at McDonald's. So it's not like Mark was waiting behind me for many, many minutes. But you would think I'd have like all the Vikings answers after bonding very briefly with Mark Wilf this morning. But unfortunately,
He was behind you?
I don't. He was behind me in line.
I'm a griddle guy, a pancake
No,
guy.
it wasn't. No. So one of the nurses, somebody that was working in the BioReference
I would've moved right past
trailer, walked in with some breakfast. No,
Got
Mark
it.
was
I would have
not
pushed
eating
you aside.
McDonald's.
If I'm Mark, I'm like, get out of my way, Darren.
Doogie, it should have been obvious when
He's
Mark
pretty
was
low
wearing
maintenance.
a Christian Darrisaw jersey what they're going to do tonight. I don't know. All right,
I love
Doogie.
it. All right.
All right,
See you,
we'll catch
dudes.
you
See you, boys.
next week. Darren
Bye-bye.
Doogie Wolfson.
Bye.
All right, boys. Let's also we got to get to some Twins discussion because I don't know. You guys doubted them aggressively, and I tried to tell you all along you're panicking too much.
I'm back in.
The key, YouTube TV. Just put all the games on YouTube TV.
Jim Thome. I enjoyed Jim Thome's commentary yesterday.
A little LaTroy. LaTroy was on there.
All right. Well, Declan's going to rip Tomey in a second here. These Twins discussions and talking Twins every day on Mackie and Judd, powered by our friends at Dennis Kirk. It's riding season, and Dennis Kirk is a trusted supplier, the best in the business. 160,000 parts and accessories for Harleys, Metric Cruisers, sport bikes, Indians, you name it. Clothing and helmets. Order before 8 p.m. They ship the same day, and shipping is free for orders over $89. DennisKirk.com. Everything you need for your ride at DennisKirk.com. Well, that's one way to have a team meeting and then have the first two dudes right out of the gate just hit bombs, Byron Buxton and Josh Donaldson. And yesterday was a glimpse from all angles, right? From the lineup to the pitching performance. Yesterday was a glimpse into why we shouldn't just write this team off. This team has ridiculous bats when they're hot. Polanco showed a flash of the old Polanco yesterday, sitting on that pitch and driving it to the left field bleachers. So they have a lot of work to do, but yesterday was the first real feel-good vibes we've had in a long time with this team, boys.
I hate to rain on the parade, but I believe,
Here we go.
but I believe it was also the fact that Cleveland's starter was not good at baseball. He had an awful game. Look, I got to see this for an extended period. I wonder. So here's my question too, because they did come out hot. They did come out flying. I wonder what Rocco really said when he met with them after the loss 2 nights ago. And I'm not saying that he necessarily lit them up completely, but it was probably a little bit different than, well, it's a lot of bad luck and you guys are playing hard. Love ya. I'm guessing it was a little bit different because the most important thing to me, no matter who started in the game yesterday, was this. They seemed really engaged again, right? Like they seemed on top of things. They seemed like they cared deeply, which they should. They stink so far. And so I think if they have the ability to be engaged and they have the ability to be a cohesive group, I think they're going to be okay. I'm not saying that they're going to make the playoffs now. I have no idea. But that was the one thing to me, Phil and Dex, that stood out for like 3 weeks. It's like, are you guys here mentally? And everybody yesterday seemed like they definitely were. And that's not going to save you, but it's a very important starting point.
On the Rocco front, baseball is just not really the type of sport where you can just light a team up, because it's like football is sort of a max effort sport where if you're getting manhandled, then
hockey's more like that too.
Hockey, right?
Yeah,
But
you're right.
But baseball's more of a concentration and keep your poise and all the things that Rocco preaches. And sometimes it's hard to tell, were they more engaged because the first two dudes hit bombs, or did the first two dudes hit bombs because they were more engaged? And we may not know until we see it play out for a few more weeks.
The thing is, though, and I know the injuries are frustrating, and I know it sucks, but the thing about this is, keep in mind when he can play what Byron Buxton is doing.
Dude, 5
It's
for
incredible.
5 yesterday.
And I know he'll get hurt again. There will be something, right? And we default to that, which is, oh man, and we're right. It always seems to be something. But statistically, and in watching this guy play when he's been able to, it's incredible. Like, Phil, this is not, oh, that's a nice start. This is off the charts.
Yeah, 1 month into the season here, so he's tied for the major league lead now with 8 home runs. He has a 1408 OPS, which is almost double his career average OPS and almost double the league average OPS. And I get that it's only been 1 month and he's only played 17 games, and he's going to come back to earth at some point. But this is the guy that we've sort of been hoping for a long time. Can you do this over the course of 120 games or something close to it? So I love that they've moved him up into the leadoff spot, and whether it's leadoff or batting third, like he should be getting as many plate appearances as possible. I'm more curious as to what Declan's take on Jim Thome as a color commentator is.
That's what I wanted to hear too.
Tommy's a really nice guy. Okay, he's a really, really, really nice guy.
He's a great dude, man. He's so
an
It's
unbelievable
not you,
human
it's me,
being.
Jim.
And I know Judd Zulgad's like the only human being maybe in the world to piss him off.
That was a long time ago.
But it's just, his commentary is just so, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, they're a really good team. It's just so positive and so like blanket statements. I was just like, Jim,
My sports son.
I don't care. Like, quit upselling me on all this stuff.
He's Jim Thome.
I can't stand it.
You know what? For
I
one
can't
game
stand it.
though, I didn't mind it. Like it would get to me if I had to watch him day after day. But you know what? For one game, and they would just. I think those games, the goal is to almost have 2 players on who can start discussing things, which I actually don't mind.
Yeah, it was a different feel for sure.
But like, it's not supposed to be Mr. Play-by-Play and I'm doing play-by-play and you're the analyst. And so I like their idea. But Dex, yeah, if Jim Thome did game after game after game, it would get to be too much.
He doesn't have any. He's so
Not a
scared
mean
of
person.
saying something that might make someone mad that he just walks the myth. That's how he was in his career too. So when Judd asked him, "Do you really want to be here?" There's like 40 games under 500. He's clearly going to get traded, and Judd's like, "I need you to rip the Twins. Do you really want to be here?" And
why would you want to be here? You're winding down your career. But you know what? He is, to Declan's point, an incredibly positive person, down to the fact that he signed a contract. I think so. He got sold, I think, by the Twins to Cleveland for the end of that season. And if I'm not mistaken, Phil, he signed a contract to actually try and play first base with the Phillies the next season.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
Like, think about that mindset.
He dusted his glove off for the first
You've
time.
got
in like
no
7
shot
years.
of. Yeah, and you've got no shot, dude. At that point, like, you are a DH, that's it. That would be like if Nelson Cruz tried to come back and be like, I'm going to play for the Padres next season.
Yeah, but Nelson
you're
Cruz
not.
is still sort of freakishly strong, and I wouldn't say athletic in the movement sense. And Thome was
Right.
Thome looked like his back was breaking down and stuff.
He looked like me. He sort of looked like me.
A little bit.
He was great. You know what, though? I will say this. Do you guys think that Nelson Cruz is faster now than he's ever been with the Twins? He's legged out more hits. The guy got a bleeping triple.
I get nervous. I feel like he's going to pull something. Every time a Twins player over the age of 35, Josh Donaldson, I just get nervous. So I'd rather him not try and leg out
Donaldson.
infield singles. But
I'm with you on Donaldson.
yeah. On the broadcast thing, so Scott Braun was the play-by-play guy. He's an MLB Network studio guy mostly, and then LaTroy Hawkins and Jim Thome. And they welcomed in Jose Barrios at one point, and they were putting up fun polls like best nicknames in baseball, and some of it was kind of campy and corny. But what I loved was they weren't just trying to do the formulaic thing that baseball broadcasts have been for 100 years, which is, I am the play-by-play man, and I am wearing a golf shirt or a tie. And you are the former player, and I will tell the audience what's happening, and then you will react formulaically for 4 hours. Like, we need to get away from that. That's the old model of baseball broadcasts. I'm watching the game. I don't need you to tell me what all 300 pitches are in the game. I can see it unfolding in front of me. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun discussions, and let's make it almost like you're listening to a podcast that intermittently is explaining what's happening during the game. And if the bases are loaded, cool, let's lock in on the specific action that's happening right now.
Right.
But baseball broadcasts can be so slow and dull and boring for like 80%, and they were trying to fix that on this YouTube broadcast yesterday, and I thought that was cool.
And by the way, because this was on YouTube and it wasn't blacked out locally, MLB adopt this policy, please. Like, you put this on an internet thing. I get that, but it wasn't blacked out here. Why can't we make this a thing? And this goes beyond baseball. It goes through all 4 major sports. Stop with this blackout rules. If I want to pay you oogles of money to watch my team, I will do that. The blackout thing, I could just it came back. So I saw some people were being like, well, Bally Sports North, this is a Bally Sports North problem. No, this is a Major League Baseball problem. They put the game on YouTube, and honestly, I'm okay with it because I love YouTube. Like, make this blackout thing go away.
Yeah, it is a baseball problem, and the reason baseball hasn't touched it is because most of the revenue that comes in to the league is local revenue, and
It's
most
rights
of the
fees.
local revenue that comes in is TV rights fees.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they don't want to, like, I'm sure the owners are sitting there saying, yeah, we'd love for our games to be accessible, but people have, like, there has to be revenue coming in. So it's a mess, and it really does need to be untangled, and I don't know if they're going to.
But the whole thing needs to be rethought. Well, like, that's the thing is, and baseball probably is the biggest offender of the old term, but this is the way we've always done it. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's the problem. Phil, to your point about broadcasts, and this didn't work, but it was the right idea, and more sports should just try it until they perfect it to a certain point. The NBA players-only broadcasts, which I think on TNT, I think there was one in particular last season that was a disaster. It just didn't go well, and it sucked. But that's the right formula. Like, I would love to have 3 players and one guy that can be the pseudo play-by-play guy. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But so that they can just all talk about what's going on in the game and situations, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I want. Because every telecast I watch, I want you to tell me things I don't see or know. Yep. Like, I don't want to hear what I know. I know those things. And if you're going to read stats off, I know the stats. I can look those up. So tell me, and that's why I always thought Tom Kelly was so damn good. It wasn't because he was exciting. He wasn't. But he would tell me stuff. He would see stuff that on my best day as a baseball fan, I wouldn't ever think of. That's what I loved about him.
And the biggest barrier to that happening is really just like baseball TV broadcasts cling to the idea that you have to tell people what's happening at every turn. And so I don't know, like, I'm sure some people want that, but I just feel like if there's going to be 300 pitches thrown in a game, you only really need to, like, call 70 of them. For me, like, I don't. If it's the third inning and it's 6-0, I don't need it to be ball outside 1-0, because every time you call a pitch, you're stopping a conversation from it. And sometimes they'll let conversations drift, but then when the batter hits a ground ball to second base, the conversation stops so that Dick Bramer can say, "There's a ground ball to second," throws on to first, 2 outs. It's like, oh, okay.
I saw it.
I saw it. That's fine. Like, have a discussion. Literally go into these games, not to say that I have all the answers, but like what I would do is I would go into these games and say, all right, we got 3.5 hours. For 50% of it, we're going to be focused on what's happening in the game. But let's have like 6 or 7 themes or topics or threads or stories that we plan out beforehand and all tee you up for those things. When the game starts to slow down, cool, I'm going to ask you about this, and let's turn it into a podcast for 20 minutes during the inning. And then when the game gets tight, we back off that stuff and we start to call the game again. Like, that's what would make it more gripping to me anyways.
The most important thing, though, is that, and there are clearly a lot of outlets that don't like to do this, you have to be willing to tell me what's going wrong as well. Like, break it down. Like, there's been a ton of opportunities, not surprisingly, in the last 2 weeks where if Bally's would embrace the bad, they could tell you things. Like, I have not heard yet a detailed breakdown of what column A is doing wrong, which there has to be something. Like, there's no way that Perk, right, who's been pre and post of late, there's no way that Glenn Perkins, who did this job, doesn't see things.
Yep.
I'd love to know what those things are, because I sure as hell don't know, right? But like, if you could do a detailed breakdown of Alexander column A is struggling and he is stunk, and here's what we see why. I'm going to learn from that. That's what I want.
Yep.
That's the exact type of thing that I pay my cable bill to get that. And it's a big bill, by the way. I feel emboldened to speak for what I want because it's a big bill.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's like obviously you're not going to get on and just fillet the team.
No.
I get that. It's a partnership.
Don't torch them.
Don't patronize the audience by ignoring elephants in the room, right?
Exactly.
So, all right, so that's talking Twins for today. Twins are back. You guys were off the bandwagon. I don't think we should let you back on, quite frankly, but
and Declan just ripped an HOF. I mean, Jim Thome, one of the greatest guys, by the way. I always loved him personally. You just ripped him. He's trying to do this job.
just say, I want him to say one mean thing. I would love to hear him say one mean
Ask
thing.
him about me. Probably doesn't like me.
That's
still.
probably true. I probably should have went that way. I probably should have. Yeah.
Text him. Say,
Yeah.
you remember that guy that
Jim, what's the
a-hole?
meanest thing you can say? All right. Every single week, every Thursday on the show, Declan goes back in the Twitter archives and finds old, embarrassing, incriminating tweets from 10-plus years of Twitter bantering. Old tweets exposed.
And of course, every time this happens, every time I need my dang camera to freeze,
no.
and it just,
It's Phil. Phil
it's
did
fine.
it.
It's fine.
That's too bad that
Oh, yeah,
we won't
okay,
be
old
able to
tweets-
expose these
No,
tweets
no.
Old tweets
anymore.
exposed is over.
It is an NFL draft edition.
Nice.
So we have all three of us have draft takes. Me and Phil from like 10 years ago.
Oh, my God.
Judd from
Oh, no.
just not too long ago.
Oh, no.
We'll start with Phil.
Bad. This is bad.
We'll start with Phil.
Oh, my
Love it
God,
when we
this
start
is
with
bad.
Phil.
January 4th, 2012. Heading into the 2012, if I'm running the Vikings, my main goal is to solidify the passing game.
Oh, no.
Draft Blackman.
Oh, boy.
Use Kyle Rudolph more. Find a left tackle. Phil is referring to Justin Blackman, who was out of the league in 2 years.
Yeah, he had problems off the field.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
So
boy.
didn't the Buccaneers follow him around with
Yes.
their scouts to
To
bars?
a bar. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody
Yeah.
followed him around and identified him in like bars left and right. Yeah, he had a drinking problem.
Well, they did wind up using Kyle Rudolph more, so
And
that
they
was
did
helpful.
technically find a left
Is this the
tackle.
Matt Khalil? Is this Matt Khalil? Then?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
they found a left tackle,
They technically was, but yes.
and he can make a mean pizza.
They
At short
didn't
arms.
work out.
Pyology.
Short-
Good
short
stuff.
arm.
Does
Alright,
he
so
still
Judd-
own Pyologies?
I think they sold off Pyologies. I don't know what happened there.
I don't
Or
know
they
how
closed
you
in-
guys.
or they closed.
I don't know how you guys are going to top me pining for Justin Blackman to help elevate the Vikings passing game, but go ahead and try.
Well, Declan always does come
hold on.
from way in the back.
Well, this is from Judd. April 26, 2019. The Vikings have to be very happy with how the draft has gone. No one should be happier than Kirk Cousins. Talked about the need to prop up Cousins with better personnel and scheme, and that's what is happening.
Oh man,
Garrett Bradbury.
the scheme and Bradbury are just clicking right now for Kirk Cousins.
And Judd Zolgad, like a broken record, has been saying prop up Kirk Cousins.
I was going to
for the
say
last 2
it's
years.
very consistent with my thought process.
Very consistent.
But yeah,
so-
yeah, Garrett Bradbury's probably not the guy who. Yeah.
Nice work there. I mean, it's still
Yeah.
not quite as. I mean, Kirk has had some good passing
and it's not
seasons,
Blackman.
so-
Phil very much in the lead
I just
here.
want to say
Very
before I
safe.
show my tweet, this is kind of dark, and I don't advocate for this hashtag, but I just need to point it out.
Okay.
Just wanted a disclaimer there. If the Vikes do not take Claiborne in the NFL draft, hashtag I am going to shoot myself.
Oh, there's a very immature tweet.
December 13th, 2000. This is freshman year of college,
Yeah, this
Declan.
is very immature.
And I was referring to Maurice Claiborne, the cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys who they drafted. He actually had a decent career. He played for 6-7 years, but
not a guy that you would probably want to end it all for. Though,
not a
right?
guy I want to put a
Yeah, Andrew
bullet
Luck.
in my
Andrew. I'm looking at the 2012 draft. Andrew Luck would have
Luck.
been that guy. Yeah, Mo Claiborne out of LSU went 6th overall. This draft is actually woof. So Andrew Luck, RG3 for a haul.
Yep.
Trent Richardson was 3rd. Matt Khalil was 4th. Justin Blackman was 5th. Some all-time busts here.
That's where they flip picks with the Browns. That's right.
Mo Claiborne, Mark Barron, Ryan Tannehill, Luke Kuechly. Those guys panned out. Stephon Gilmore panned out. Don Terry Poe, Fletcher Cox. So a nice little run there. Michael Floyd, 13th.
Yeah.
I'm just going to skip around here a little bit. Dre Kirkpatrick, 17th. Man.
yeah.
The Vikings
Melvin
had
Ingram,
another.
not
Yeah,
a
the
bad
Vikings
play.
had
Riley Reef.
Harrison Smith went 29th to the Vikings that year. Who'd they take in the second round that year?
That's when Rick got back in. I think they might have traded the second round pick to Baltimore to get that pick.
That's right.
Oh, early 3rd, they took Josh Robinson. That's right. Cornerback Josh Robinson.
Yeah. Footballs are still whizzing by the ear hole of his helmet as Aaron Rodgers makes passes.
So, all right. Well, I think I won this
Phil
week.
wins. Oh, yeah, you won.
Justin Blackman.
I think it's going away
my
that you won.
oh boy.
I mean, you didn't know because you clearly didn't follow him around to bars
Okay, I got
because you were
one
bar
thing.
hopping yourself.
So many,
Yeah.
we brought this up on Purple Daily, but just to flesh it out more, okay? So people view the draft all too often as black and white, right? Bust or not, or this guy, that guy. if you're speaking with any level of certainty about prospects that are going to be drafted tonight, like if you say, that's a terrible mock because you can't take that guy, he's going to be a bust.
Sure.
You don't know. Scouts don't know. GMs don't even know. Like, look at this the 2012 draft that we just pulled up, okay? Washington traded a boat for RG3. Not because they knew he was going to be amazing, but they were pretty sure. It was a calculated gamble.
It was a smokescreen for Kirk. They knew that they were going to take Kirk. It was a smokescreen.
Yep. Like, it's all probabilities. It's all probabilities. Like,
which is why I come back to the fact that one of the nicest things is to take a position at which you aren't desperate because you just like the guy.
Yeah, it's all like what are basically
like quarterback.
How would
right
you
now.
if you've got your big board, your draft board, right? Like the Vikings draft board tonight in terms of realistic options once you get past like the top 4 picks.
Sure.
You know, maybe Trey Lance is number 1 of guys that could fall. And even I bet if you ask them, he's the best player on your board. What's the % chance that guy pans out? They'd probably say 50. Probably 50, 60 maybe, like if we develop him.
And 60 is damn good.
What if Rashawn Slater, let's say Sewell's off the board, and Rashawn Slater is the number 1 realistic option? What's the % chance he pans out? They probably say 75. I don't know,
Yep.
50, 75. It's not 100. Oh, people just talking absolutes about the draft.
The gamble on a guy like Khalil was still a good one. Like that process was exactly right. That process was exactly right. My issue with taking a player that you desperately need at a position that's not crucial is that's where I fault you. So like if you're like, we're gonna draft a center, Garrett Bradbury. Okay, if he fails, it's not worth the pick. Like if Bradbury was a left tackle and starting to crap out now, I would still say, yeah, but it's a left tackle, right? Like quarterback, left tackle. I mean, go through the positions at which you deem to be the most important, and those are the positions that I'm not going to fault you.
Yeah, you should be drafting those positions high. It's like in baseball. Draft shortstops, draft pitchers, draft center fielders.
Exactly.
Those are the most impactful positions. Draft catchers. And then if those guys don't pan out, well, maybe they'll pan out at first base. Like Miguel Sano, they signed him as a shortstop. Now, he might not pan out as a first baseman or a DH too, which is the problem. But in the NFL, what are the most important influential positions? Draft a left tackle. If he doesn't pan out, maybe he's your right tackle. Maybe you move him to guard or something.
Exactly.
When you draft a guard and he doesn't pan out, you cut him.
Right.
That's what happens.
He ends up being traded. Like
and
Mason Storm.
quarterback is kind of the same thing. Like if a quarterback doesn't pan out, obviously you cut him or you say goodbye like Christian Ponder. But if he does, people focus so much on, well, what if he doesn't pan out? What if he's Christian Ponder? What if he's Josh Allen? What if he's Russell Wilson? What if he's Pat Mahomes? You know, that's how you win Super Bowls. You don't win Super Bowls by just being the best good team that can just make the most solid, good signings. Like you need greatness at some of these positions, and quarterback is one that the Vikings don't have greatness at right now, which is why I'd be looking for Fields and Lance tonight.
The Mahomes trade and pick is fantastic, I think, starting with this reason. They had a quarterback. They identified one and said, he just better. So, like, it wasn't this. I feel like the worst thing in sports is desperation. Oh, my God, we don't have a quarterback. Let's just get one. We got to get one, right? But the Chiefs were like, we got a guy who's pretty good, and he can get us to the playoffs. So it was very Vikings-like. But then they're like, but he's not as good as this guy. And that's where there's the element of having time to develop him. And also you are way more sure then because you're not doing it out of desperation. This is how I think the draft has to be seen. Because if you can go through the draft like that, you're going to feel pretty damn good.
And that's where I think that's where we're going to stop this conversation and fuel up for tonight's conversation, which is live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel.
Seltzers.
All throughout the night.
Ready to go, baby.
We got you guys covered. So if you haven't already subscribed to the Purple Daily YouTube channel, that's where you can find us live tonight. We're going to bring fans into the show with us. It's going to be super fun. And yeah, this is one of my favorite days of the year. There's so many things that could happen tonight.
Do the chimes.
Super pumped.
Somebody do the chimes.
I got it.
Declan's got
Do
the
the
chimes.
The tequila will be flowing if a linebacker's taken at 14. I'm just saying. I'm just warning
Oh,
everyone
you might
right
pass out,
Micah Parsons. It's going to be great.
Micah Parsons.
All right, dudes. Great stuff today on Reckless Speculation Thursday. And again, you can find all of the things we do at SKOR North. Mackie and Judd, Purple Daily, Royce Unchained, The Scoop with Doogie, 10,000 Swings, Minnesota Golf Podcast, and now also Loon Talk, Minnesota United Talk with John Harrison and Dan Terhar, all on SKORNorth.com and the SKOR North app and all of Judd's written work as well. We'll see you guys tomorrow.